Now it's our faces. Now it's our show. Now it's time for us to do the thing.
Now we're here for our one viewer.
And
It's
we're
always
here.
just you. It's
Just
always
you,
just you,
one
our
viewer.
one viewer.
What is it?
Don't
what do people
believe the
even
viewer
do when the
list.
show? What do people
Yeah,
even do
it's-
when the
it's
show
just our-
starts like this?
It's just our one. It's just our one viewer.
Just me and you.
That as previously stated, we make every episode for one person, and you should just assume that you are that person because, why resolve the wave state? Why?
Why?
Yeah,
Why?
why open the box to see if the cat is dead or not if you don't have to?
Don't do that. The cat's fine. Just like you.
Yeah, the cat's fine. Just like you. Just like you're the one viewer we're doing this for.
Yeah.
And if you need this to be, ASMR or, my two gay uncle replacement time, that's fine with us. I'm already filling that role for a bunch of high school students.
There you go. That's really good. Good for you. Good for
I don't think
you.
I come off as a gay uncle, but,
At least one of us does.
My uncle that my parents don't trust me to be around,
That's true. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll roll us right in here. You ready?
I've never been more ready for anything in my life.
Are you for real?
Yeah,
Are you
never.
for real?
So
Okay.
powerful. Well, we got a full house here on the Discord, which you could be joining us and be part of this community
For $1.
For $1 a month over at patreon.com/Discord. This Discord and this chat and this podcast writ large were described today as not for everyone, but very for the people it's for. And so we think you'll enjoy it.
Much akin to Tipper Gore and the 1990s debacle that was the Supreme Court case of I don't actually know if it was Supreme Court. It was just a bunch of hearings having to do with parental advisory. You know when you know it when you see it. That's how I feel about our show. You know it when you see it.
That's actually a reference to Supreme Court Justice's definition of pornography.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
I can't define it, but I know it when I see it.
No, when I see it. That was also, it was talked a lot about in that in those hearings. But yeah, it comes from a definition of pornography way earlier in I believe the 70s or maybe earlier than that, 50s or 60s.
Yeah.
I don't know. Either way, thank God for Al
say?
Gore at the very least. He created the internet. But hey, let's talk about football. What do you say? Ready?
Let's do
Hey,
it. I'm ready.
speaking of Al Gore, he went to Vanderbilt, I think.
Did he really?
I think he
on.
did. But then he dropped out twice. Okay, we got to talk about football. Okay, here we
yeah,
go. Ready?
no. Vanderbilt Law School.
Oh, look at you go. Look at you go, Al.
He went to Vanderbilt from 1971 to 1972, and then 1974 to 1976.
Anybody can be the vice president. Even Al Gore.
Yeah.
All right.
Anyone could invent the internet.
And they did. Okay. Welcome to Chapel Bell Curve, stats focused podcast about UGA football. I'm Justin.
And I'm Nathan.
And this weekend, our beloved dogs, our little pups, are headed on their way out of town on their first big adventure to go meet, the first big SEC adventure, we'll say, to go meet the Nashville Vanderbilt Commodores, the rich kids of the SEC, if you will. And we're going to talk a little bit about stats and sports today and give you some updates on what is going on in the Georgia football world, what you need to know, and how you can argue with all your friends this weekend as you watch the game. Because it's going to be, it's not going to be a snooze fest. There's going to be plenty to see, but we're here to equip you with the tools you need in order to keep it away from being snooze fest.
I just want to stop you right there. Saying this is not going to be a snooze fest. Like, I believe in myself, but that's a big ask for the two of us, right?
Yeah, we're going to do our best here.
I think we're good with numbers, but man, that's a heavy lift that you just put in front of us. But I respect
do you feel that? That's the weight
I
of
think
this
we can
game
do
on
it.
your shoulders.
Yeah. Well, let's start as we always do with some subjective narratives, some news stuff.
Of
We call them
course.
subjective narratives, but I guess we just throw everything that is current events that isn't stats in here.
Yeah.
We always start by looking at the Wikipedia, which is a great website if you like college football, of the matchup. And this is going to shock you to know that this is not a competitive series.
Nope.
currently 58 wins for Georgia, 20 wins for Vanderbilt, 2 ties. That's a .738 win percentage for Georgia. Since the beginning of the series, the first time it was played is within 1894, which is 35-0 Vanderbilt victory, which is their second largest victory in the series. Their first or third largest, rather. Their first largest came in 1901 when they won 47-0, and then 1913 when they won 46-0. Those are back in the heady days of Vanderbilt before the Kaiser and before the Black Hand kicked off the Great War, and things were still good for Vanderbilt. Since then, if we look at our little chart of wins and losses, things have not gone great for our old Commodore brethren. Just, not a incredibly successful football team. Right there around 2012, 2013 was probably the high water mark for Vanderbilt in the modern era with James Franklin. Then, other than that, 1943, they went 5-0 with Ernst Hayes Alley as their coach. And then, let's see, they went 8-0 with Dan McEwen back in the heyday of 1904, before the Spanish flu epidemic and World War I took all their mojo. Before the Roaring Twenties, when the G-Men came and took all of their money out of the behind the brick walls of their speakeasy, when Vandy had it good. So yeah, not really much. Lots of history to the series, but like much of the competitive side of this game, not an incredibly interesting one, if only because of its one-sidedness.
Yeah. Some fun things that I've learned while you've been talking about this. So this is usually, when we start talking about the history of things, and we start talking about just kind of what's going on between these two teams and the kind of the history between them. I like to find a few quick fun facts about the places and the people that we're playing. And something that I learned about Vanderbilt today is I found a fun website called Cornelius Vanderbilt Facts for Kids. Cornelius Vanderbilt himself was, of course, the man that he provided the initial gift to found Vanderbilt University. And by God, please go look up his picture and his portrait, because that's only a face that I guess a family could love, of a very wealthy patriarch. This man also, if you didn't already know, he is responsible. Big quotes. This is, of course, an audio medium. Responsible for building the New York Central Railroad. And then making a shit ton of money off of it. But he comes from the titular Vanderbilt family, of course. And one of my favorite quotes from on this Cornelius Vanderbilt Facts for Kids is, born poor and having but a mediocre education. Just mediocre education is probably my favorite part of this whole thing. He used perseverance, intelligence, and luck to work into leadership positions in the inland water trade and invest in the rapidly growing railroad industry. So, right place, right time.
So,
it's the story of white men everywhere.
Did you know? Can I tell you another fact about Cornelius Vanderbilt?
Yes, please.
He was like a transportation magnate, and he owned a bunch of ships, but he owned like a personal steamer that he could sail up and down the Hudson River, think like paddle boat kind of deal.
My God.
This is the evocative motion for powder boat.
Powder boats.
For paddle. That's a mix of a power boat and a paddle boat. It's just made of cocaine. This is the evocative gesture for paddle boat, because this, podcasting is a visual medium. But anyway, Cornelius Vanderbilt's personal paddle boat personal steamer was called the C. Vanderbilt.
Oh, so of course it is.
Not only humble, but also creative. You gotta love that in a guy.
Gotta love him.
Anyway, eat the rich.
Some of our favorite.
I'm sure that we're gonna get some comment now that's like, you're really insulting all the rich UGA
all the
fans
rich
out
people
there.
Listening to this show. Just know that
before you write that down, let me
people.
just say, I don't just mean eat the rich in like a sort of metaphorical way. I mean that we would be better served actually practicing cannibalism on them.
They're delicious.
Carry on.
They're so full of nutrition because of all the money.
Their supple, fat body.
Okay. Some of the notable alumni just want to bring,
live?
We sure are. We sure are live talking to the whole damn world on Al Gore's internet. And speaking of Al Gore is not actually an alumni of Vanderbilt. He is a 2-time dropout. So even you can drop out of college and go on to become the vice president of the United States, of these United States.
Good for him.
Yeah.
Good for him.
He did it. He really did it. I think that somebody also mentioned that Anderson Cooper is a Vanderbilt alumni, and if he is, that would be neat. But also, I think that he's just part of the Vanderbilt family, also. So
But
Anderson
I
Cooper
love
owns
Anderson
Vanderbilt.
Cooper.
Actually, I think he's just a descendant. So says Joel on our Discord. For $1 a month,
I
you
know
can
I
join
just
and tell
said that we
me
should
during the middle of the show.
literally. I know we just said that we should literally eat the rich, but I do love Anderson Cooper, so
I do
I'm
love
going to
Anderson
walk
Cooper.
that back a little bit. Let's not eat Anderson Cooper.
Let's strategically eat the rich. All right, moving on. So hit me with some of these subjective narratives that you have here.
Yeah, so one that I keep hearing that I think is interesting is the whole, well, Vanderbilt canceled this game twice last year and then was able to play against Tennessee the next week, and they canceled because of COVID issues. And the whole thing of like, oh, well, we didn't get to have a senior day because Vanderbilt canceled. I don't. I mean, I guess in that sense, like people are saying it's like a revenge game. I don't really think the team gives a shit about that. I mean, like certainly, I'm sure the seniors last year did. But the thing about seniors last year is that they're either not on the team or they get to have a senior year this year, right? I think that at the time, if you'll recall, back in the heady days of 2020 when life was good. Anyway, Vanderbilt canceled this game right in the middle of the whole like Sarah Fuller is the kicker thing, and I feel like a lot of people who are like, let's get revenge against Vanderbilt. Hold on, I don't want to use ad hominems. When I hear that, what it sounds like to me, to use my therapy language, is that this is a revenge game against the team that played a girl, which you don't like. Now, I could be wrong because I am an idiot. I got an English degree and then started a stats podcast. So don't listen to me. But when I hear that, that's what I think. Do you have any other response to that?
No, I think you about covered it there. Other things that people are talking about, it just seems very much so. Actually, I'll repeat this thing that Brad Nessler said because it pissed me off. Is that he is convinced, seemingly convinced that, and he said this on live television because he want to do, but he talked about how he doesn't feel like we have a running game or a dominant running back or an identity as far as our running game goes. And then he went on to decide that even though Daniels came in at the end of last season and won all the games he started, Nessler said, this is a quote, who did he beat? Who did he beat? Is what Brad Nessler wanted to say. As if last year was a real season is how I feel about it. But I don't know. Like, how do you feel about just kind of the poo-pooers that are poo-pooing upon this team right now? This team whose stats we talk about and share with the world each weekend.
You've actually rendered me speechless. Cool. I mean,
Yeah.
It's actually kind of great. I'm not being sarcastic. Hold on. I need this to come out as sincerely as possible. If you were Kirby Smart and you were planning, what is the best possible season for a team with the second most talent in the nation and then a big gap to 3, right? There would be a couple of things you would want. You would want the more talented team ahead of you to have some chinks in the armor. Check. You would want to avoid rat poison by having people constantly underestimate you. Check. You would want some of your less talented opponents to show some life so that you could, pick it up in practice. You would want to beat your opening non-conference opponent, but in a close enough way that it's clear that you're still not as complete as a team. And you would want your injuries to come early during camp so that you could get your best guys back for the stretch run. So it's like, cool. I hope there are 1,000 Brad Nesslers. I hope that the interior of the football operations building, which is what they're calling it now because Buttsmere is a stupid name for a building.
Sure is.
Yeah. I hope that the inside of the football operations building is just plastered wall to wall with Brad Nessler's doughy red white guy face. And I hope that Paul Feinbaum says something stupid. I hope that Anderson Cooper gets into college football just so that he can say something stupid about Georgia, because this is literally it's kind of like when I saw this thing where people were predicting the possible college football playoff matchups, and one of them that they had was like oh, a tight game between Georgia and Iowa. And it's like, and we talked about this in the SC
Hmm.
review, but it's like Georgia Iowa is like the game Kirby Smart was born to coach. It's
Oh
like
yeah.
he it's like, oh no, don't, not that. I don't want to play a defensive slugfest where, you know, the best executing team with the best run game wins all the time. Oh no, it's like, come on now. You're playing into Kirby Smart's hands, and it's like you keep calling him stupid, and it's like this is a team that is missing at least two starters, maybe three, depending how you count it, that were all 4 or 5 stars.
Yeah.
So yeah, go ahead.
Go
Talk
on.
shit. That's fine.
Do your thing. It's fine. So a lot of the talk right now is talking about our injuries update. So we have a number of players that are still out, but Kirby was able to kind of shed a little bit of light on all of their situations individually for the most part over just media day in the last few days. And so Darnell Washington could be back this week. Tyke Smith could be back this week. They're both practicing. Dominic Blaylock probably back, which is very exciting. And then there's a couple that are bigger questions, and I wanted to ask you if you knew anything about Arik Gilbert first before we get into George Pickens.
Yeah, so I don't want to talk too much about things that I've heard because
Mm-hmm.
I'm all about rumors until they become about people's personal life.
Mm-hmm.
I feel confident in saying that when Eric Gilbert is ready to play college football, he will play at Georgia, given that he is ready to play college football again. It is clear to me, based on people that I've talked to, that he is not currently ready, and that, you know, I think that we need to give people grace. You know, that though it's a word that gets kind of maybe overused in a Judeo-Christian context, but I think grace in the just very dictionary connotative, or sorry, denotative definition of like, you know, allowing people the opportunity to like heal themselves, and, you know, giving people a little bit of like relief from pressure. And so yeah, I mean, I think Eric Gilbert very well may be back this year. I think it might be one of those things where if it happens, it's like we don't hear anything about it, and then one Tuesday they're like, well, Eric Gilbert was at practice, he was
Mm-hmm.
suited up, catching passes. And I hope that he gets that. But really, I mean, I think the number one thing is just like anyone who has gone through a crisis of a personal nature will tell you that, you know, these things kind of happen in their own time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So good little update. George Pickens. Smart did say that George Pickens has been running some routes. He's been doing some cutting, which is really great. He's actually ahead of schedule based on those acts from having his knee repaired and pretty much totally a brand new knee in there. So some of the I will say some of the expectations and some of the projections for when he could be back. It's somewhat typical, and it's always like a case by case situation for each person. Like some people take a lot longer for the leg to get strong enough, the graft to take hold, strong enough for your doctor to be confident in its ability to do its thing, some people take a lot longer. So it's somewhat typical. I've been reading that at 9 months he could be playing in very limited capacity, and so 9 months puts that at the Florida game. I don't think I expect him to be at the Florida game. That's a big game, and it's an unnecessary risk, I feel, for him, unless we get to Florida and they're just deciding to continue playing lights out. But I do think that we could definitely see him still before the end of the regular season based on that information alone. So, you know, keep your fingers
Yeah,
crossed.
I mean, I think the thing that you've heard from about the Florida game is that okay, so he's taking cuts and he's practicing. Oh, is my audio, is my video out? Okay, never mind. He's taking cuts and he's practicing against air with the rest of the wide receivers. UGA had its first practice availability in I think 2 years yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
So in that period, this all kind of came out because Pickens was, you know, catching passes for the rest of the wide receivers. And I think people are projecting out that, you know, usually when you can take cuts at full speed, even no contact, that you are, I don't know, 4 to 8 weeks out or something like that, and that basically could lead you to the Florida game. I think that my biggest takeaway is that I think that really the thing that a lot of people who I think are pretty well informed, their reaction to his injury was that, well, we're never going to see him again, not because he's not going to be ready, but because he's just going to be prepping for the NFL draft. And I think, given the way the series is, or the season has worked out to this point, it seems that he has a lot of motivation and is still very much like with the team, wants to be a part of the team. And also, UGA is playing well enough that I think he probably thinks, what raises my draft stock? I think even selfishly to him, it's like, yes, it's a risk to go back out on the college football field on a repaired knee. But what raises your draft stock more than being healthy is being healthy and performing on a team that has a chance to go to the national championship. So it seems like kind of the stars are aligning with Pickens. I agree. I'm not sure that, I think, acting like it's fait accompli that we get him back at the Florida game is probably a little premature. But I kind of thought it was going to be, oh, is my audio robotic? Oh, no.
It's pretty normal. It happens most weeks. I think it's an internet situation.
Son of a...
Your actual audio is not bad, being recorded anyway.
It's infuriating because, like, I just improved my internet. Like, I have whatever the package is just under gig speed. I'm going to get I'm not even on Wi-Fi. I'm on a hardwired router. I'm, like, hardwired to the router. It's infuriating. Arg.
You were on such a roll and you got distracted.
I'm being told it might be Discord. What's my ping? Right now, very low. Anyway, I'm sorry. Where was I? George Pickens. Yeah. So although it's, overall very good news overall. I'm going to stop checking the Discord. I've been told to. I think, the other injury news that I think is interesting, not for Georgia, is that this was a 31-point line in Georgia Vanderbilt, and then we found out that Ramon Davis, who is Vanderbilt's leading rusher, was out for the year with a toe injury, and now it's up to a 35-point line. I think we might get even more closing line value. I think this might be like, we might see like a near 40-point line in an SEC game. Other injury notes for UGA, sounds like Tyke Smith and George Pickens Tyke Smith and Darnell Washington are targeting this week. Kirby on his last media availability today just said that they were targeting to come back this week. So I don't know, I don't know for sure if this is, the word targeting is always like, that's a little, to me, that sounds like a little bit of coach, like weasel wording, it's like, well, they want to come back this week. Well, it's like, yeah, they want to come back every week. Yeah. But I do think it's possible that we see both of those guys. And I don't think we need them for this week. I don't know that we need most of the first team for this week, but I think, definitely having these guys going into Auburn and Arkansas, especially Tyke Smith, I think it's just, you can't overemphasize the value of it. Dominic Blaylock, it sounds like maybe coming back. It sounds like Kyrus Jackson is back. He caught a couple of passes. So I don't know. I mean, it seems like, knock on wood, everyone do whatever crossing yourself, purifying ritual, warding off of evil spirits that you can. It seems like that we're in decent shape, knock on wood again, in the injury situation, knock on wood a third time. Pray to God, going into the stretch run here. So that's good. Not in the stretch run, the muted schedule here.
Yeah. So I know, that's a little bit of all of our subjective narratives. Do you want to launch into some of this actual data that we have set aside for all of this?
All right. Yeah, this is going to be short. You ready?
Yeah. Yep.
This game's not going to be competitive. All of the things that Vandy is... Yeah, no, seriously. Sorry, Don't use this for the cold open, because it's like, yeah, Vandy kind of sucks. UGA is good at the things Vandy's bad at. We're gonna win by a lot. See y'all later. Anyway,
roll credits.
It's the kind of thing where it's like, I'm not trying to dunk on Vandy, because it's like, look, God bless Vandy fans for being Vandy fans, because it ain't easy. And we talk about being tortured UGA fans all the time, but like, we got nothing on that shit. Like, if you're like the guy who is running Vandy's like SB Nation blog, like, freaking saint. Like, what a pure, like, no more pure sports fan in the world than a Vandy fan at this point. So I'm not trying to dump on him. It's just that, like, even at the things that UGA is bad at, Vandy is somehow worse. Like, okay, so UGA has not had a consistent rush performance in EPA this year, and only 4 games in, 4 games, 3 games, only 3 games in. UGA's rush numbers and EPA are really being affected by just a poor showing against Clemson and a little bit against UAB. So right now UGA is 100th in rush EPA rank, but Vandy is 114th.
Wolf.
And I have UGA as 69th in line yards rank, and Vandy is
Nice.
124th. Pass EPA rank, and this is the real one, is pass EPA rank for UGA right now has gotten all the way up to 32nd. We're an above average pass offense, y'all. Pew, 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 pew. And pass EPA rank defensively for Vandy, 84th. The only thing on the entire sheet where UGA is outranked by Vandy is in points per opportunity, because UGA has not had very many red zone drives because they've been scoring from outside of the red zone. So their points per opportunity is how many points you score each time you get inside of the opponent's 40. And UGA hasn't been inside of the opponent's 40 because they've been scoring from their own 45 most of the time. And the only time that they had was against Clemson, and they haven't done very well at it. So they're 96th in that, and Vandy is 65th, and PPO surrendered. In terms of strength of schedule, I added I guess another stats update is that me and a couple of our patrons, including one of them is named Ryan and one of them is named Ross. I'm not going to say their last names on camera or whatever, but Ryan and Ross and I have been working on I'm not going to say competitor, but a version of something more like FPI, like a power index. And in the pursuit of that, we've started looking at ELS, which is a Brian Freemow stat that is like exceptional losses estimated, and it's basically just like how many losses would a very good team have against the schedule that this team has played to this point in the season, right? So we can use that to give us a resume strength of schedule rank. So basically, like, how impressive is what Vandy has faced this year? And UGA's is 4th, and Vandy's is 112th. So it's like, even Vandy has played poorly against bad teams.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, I mean, and that's when UGA has the ball. And when Vandy has the ball, UGA's defensive ranks. I'm not even going to tell you the stats. UGA's defensive ranks: 1st, 12th, 1st, 17th, 26th, 7th, 2nd, 1st, 2nd, 38th, 1st, 4th.
It's pretty good.
Yeah,
it's pretty damn
they're
good.
Like unequivocally the best. Brad Nessler was like, what gobsmacked me earlier was Brad Nessler was hemming and hawing about, like, well, maybe they're better than everybody. It's like, no, Brad, actually, they are objectively better than everyone, and it's not like close really at all.
Yeah, he was kind of talking about, like, he said maybe they're the best, or no, he said they're as good as any other defense, maybe the best defense.
No, that's
like,
not.
Okay.
That's not what
Jackass.
this is. Like, it's not particularly close.
So I want to actually go back to this resume strength of schedule rank, because this is very exciting that it's sort of our own IP here. So I want to better understand it. So it sounds, correct me if I'm wrong, and go back through it for a second, but it sounds like it aggregates and then weights your previous schedule from the year, but it doesn't look at the remaining schedule.
It doesn't look forward. So we stole this. This is not ours. Like the rankings we did ourselves, but this is not our data. This is from Brian Freemow. I think he's at BFC Toys, BCF Toys, I think is his website. He does the FEI, which is the Freemow Efficiency Index. It's one of the big advanced statistics efficiency sort of players or whatever. And he has ELS, ALS, and GLS, and those are basically, each one of those stats measures of the games that you played, how many losses would a good, average, and excellent team have. So average measures middle of the bell curve, right? How many losses would a middle of the bell curve team have against what you've played so far? GLS measures how many losses would a sort of first standard deviation team, one chunk out on the bell curve, have against this team. And then ELS measures how many losses would an exceptional 2 standard deviation team have against the teams you played. UGA is 4th in ELS in the nation with 0.58 expected losses for an exceptional team, mainly because they played Clemson, and UAB has looked good in the times when they haven't been playing UGA. And Vandy is 112th because they lost to a MAC team. So
yeah.
Like, and so it is a rear facing statistic. It is not forward facing. So it is not a holistic measure of how strong the schedule to be played is, because schedule, if you have a schedule, an SOS rating that is looking at all 12 games, you're having to constantly update that based on whatever efficiency model you're using to measure the power of the teams that are going to be on the schedule. So, for instance, like, at the beginning of the year, UGA's schedule didn't look as good on a forward-facing metric because we were playing Arkansas and Florida, who preseason were not expected to be very good by some of the models, right? On the other hand, now our schedule looks very good based on, performance after the fact or whatever from those two teams.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. It sounds like it's kind of another way to look at it is like, of the teams that would play this game, you were this percentile. You were the top percentile of all the teams that could have played this game.
Well, it's more like how hard would it be for all the other teams to play these games that you have played?
Yeah. Okay.
Right. Like so like UGA against Vandy's schedule to this point probably could be 3-0 with its JV team. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's what the 112th resume SOS rank tells you.
Cool. Okay. So next segment.
Subjective stuff and how it matches up. Yeah. So here's the thing. Again, I'm speechless for the second time in the same episode. This team they're not like UConn historically bad. Like, how, like, I don't know if you follow Bill Connolly online, the guy who runs SP Plus, he had this tweet about how like UConn this year is worse per SP Plus than like 1890 Erskine. They're like one of the worst teams to ever play football. Oof. Based on the advanced metrics UConn is. And Vandy's not that bad, but they're not that much better. And like the subjective narrative of UGA goes in and waxes Vandy has not always been true, right? Like UGA has had some close games and some dumb losses against Vandy. I will be like, my soul will leave my body via my skeleton climbing out of my mouth if we lose this game. Like that, like, what is Mary Beth Smart's favorite number? What is Kirby and Mary Beth's anniversary?
What is their anniversary?
That's the number.
Yeah.
Because that's the number of points that UGA is going to score. Like, if Kirby wants to be like a good husband, he's going to be like, oh, well, I know your favorite number is 83, so we're going to go score 83 points. Because they could if they wanted to.
Yeah.
Like, I no joke, I'm going to have to, like, try to opponent adjust UGA's data ranks more because they played Vandy. Because all of our ranks offensively are going to go way up after playing them. Like, the number one thing is get this guy, is like get everybody through healthy, get some guys some playing time, get Tyke Smith, Darnell Washington into the rotation if they're healthy, figure out some stuff on the offensive line, figure out who's going to play guard, because that's the big question right now, because Oren Erickson has not looked great at guard. Figure out some stuff about the team and keep everyone healthy. That's it. You can do whatever else you want.
It's going to be a silly game. I think it's going to be a game to work out some things. Because like we said in our review episode of the South Carolina game or I said at least, that there were definitely some sloppy moments. There were some O-line sloppy moments. There was just some ball handling moments where that I haven't really seen in recent memory, I feel like, from this team, because it's something that we practice well, we drill well, and it's something that it's not common to see issues with handling the ball. And so I'm looking forward to seeing what we've done to fix those issues. But like you said, like we can pick our score. It's going to be very much a Georgia is playing Georgia kind of thing. And what I mean by that is that we are our best and worst enemy in this situation. Because it's more or less like playing solitaire.
Well, I mean, it's like the number one goal for this game, and we're going to say like things we want to see. The things I want to see is no major injuries. Mm-hmm. The rest of it's gravy, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like keep everybody healthy, beat the hell out of this team, and get out of here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's very true. Like I definitely want to see the ball run. I want to see kind of what we do there. And I just wrote, be cool, y'all. Be cool, y'all. And what I mean by that is, like, I feel like this is the point in the season where you have a very dominant team, and we've seen other dominant teams in past years, where they finally realize, like, oh, it's like the, somebody comes back from summer to high school, and they're like, oh, I realize now that I'm hot. And they kind of get a big head. And so that's, again, not an issue we've had with this Georgia team in past years. I think we have a great culture of keeping people in check and staying the target. But this is in past years, I feel like this is by game 4, you start seeing some of that ego from other teams. And so be cool because you don't want to have a big ego. You don't want to have a big head. You don't want to get hurt because next week could actually be a really difficult game, which is a funny thing to say out loud because it's not what we expected when we looked at our season schedule for this Arkansas team to be the probably the most difficult home game we'll have all season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
what else,
I would say we need to run the ball. Mm-hmm. Just prove that you can run the ball. You're going to be able to run the ball against this team. Figure out your offensive line rotation. Act like you've been there before, right? So I don't mean just like step on their throat. I mean, you're going to do that just like walking out the door. I mean, like, I'm not like a be respectful person, but there is a point at which, like, you know, like, I think UJ could probably score 70 on these guys. Like, I don't think they are, but it's like we could.
That's hard to do.
And I just want, like, if you want to, I just hope that we don't do anything petty, because pettiness has a way in college football of being paid back in some karmic fashion. Mm-hmm. And, I try to be pretty objective, but I do believe that UJ football is cursed. So I would really like to keep the mana flowing correctly. I'd like to keep all of our meridians aligned and our danatans open and flowing, like our chi in a good place. And I feel like if we go in here and duck on this team, which is actually weirdly getting better in some ways, like organizationally and structurally, I think they're much better off under Clark Lee than they were under Derek Mason. Then I think maybe we'll be in better shape.
Yeah. So you want to get into some over-unders? Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. I do want to talk about Arkansas, and I even have a note here about it. So, yeah, Arkansas and Texas A&M are playing this weekend, and the way that things are going, if Arkansas wins this game, which it's getting closer and closer to kind of a coin toss as to which of these teams comes out the victor over the weekend. And so Arkansas could come to Athens as a top 10 team if they beat the Aggies this weekend, which would be a great matchup and one that we did not expect to see. So I kind of wanted to ask you, like, what do we need to see from this team, or what is indicative of Georgia working on the right things to get ready for Arkansas next weekend? Because I know that we want to, of course, focus on Vanderbilt, and that's exactly what Coach Kirby Smart would say, is that we're focusing one weekend at a time. We're focusing on this team. These are the good things they do, yada, yada, yada. These are the things we got to fix. And so he, outwardly is not focusing on Arkansas, but that is the next big thing on the horizon. Is what sort of things do we need to see in this game that would indicate that we're getting ready for Arkansas, one, and also, I don't know, anything else you got to share about Arkansas?
I would say, I think the biggest thing is to not. Arkansas is going to run the shit out of the ball, and you kind of want to make their quarterback, whose name is escaping me.
What's his face? Jefferson.
Yeah, you want to make KJ Jefferson throw the ball. Not that he is like a bad passing quarterback. It's just that he hasn't really shown that level of development. Like he's not an NFL style guy. So like I think you want to make him throw the ball. And I think to prepare for that, you need to prepare not just really good run fits, because they have an excellent run game with him at the helm, but also, prepare for those deep shots that you're going to take off of it once you stop the ball, right? Mm-hmm. Or once you stop the run. UGA got caught in some like play fakes last week against South Carolina, and I think that like one of the best things that UGA can do is try to clean some of that chunk up.
Yeah.
Right. Like run fit, but also be smart. Keep your eyes, in the backfield, but don't get caught up. Know where you should be. Just like little things that when you are playing a team where the plan is to get them to be one-dimensional, you have to be good at the thing you're going to make them one-dimensional in. Right. Mm-hmm. So if you're going to say KJ Jefferson has to beat us with his arm, then you have to be prepared for him to try to beat you with his arm, right? And so that means cleaning up some stuff in coverage. That means, getting past these coverage busts. It means, not offensively, like cleaning up some stuff on the offensive line. We had some negative plays in the rushing game against the USC that were just literally because of missed blocks, right?
Yeah.
That's it.
So just tightening up the game, and which is a natural product of a team progressing through the season usually, is getting tighter, practicing more, figuring it out as you go. We will talk more about Arkansas next week, of course, and we might even have some things to say about this game, even more so than the Georgia Vanderbilt game in our review show. So until then, let's get into the over-unders. So what do you have for us so far?
Let's see. I have over under, we'll say 2.5 rushing touchdowns.
2.5 rushing touchdowns. I'll say over because I think that even when we're trying to run the ball near the end of the game, we're still going to get touchdowns. What about you?
Yeah, I'm going to say over as well.
Mm-hmm. I'll tell you, I almost put Vandergriff in here for your sake, just, in your honor.
I saw that you put Beck, and I was like, are you like trolling me right now?
I am trolling you right now. I almost put Vandergriff just for your sake. I don't think we'll see Vandergriff, but will we see Beck over under 9.5 snaps?
I'm going to say over.
I'm going to say over. I'm going to say under. It doesn't seem like that's the move. I know that we want to get a lot of quarterback rotation, but I think
it's wishful feeling.
It is, yeah.
Wishful thinking on my part.
But I will say, like, usually we think that, when we get that far down in the quarterback depth charts because we're beating somebody so bad. But I think that there is a positive spin on not seeing Beck also, is the fact that we are still trying to give Bennett some game time. One, because you want him to stay next year, like you've said in previous episodes. And also, he has some things he needs to work on. So I think that's probably what we might see a little bit more, unless we are just beating them like 70-3. So what's your next one?
Over under, the actual over under for the game is 51. I'm gonna say over. I think that, like you said, if the quarterback rotation is more about just maintenance of the offense and getting everybody ready, I think at this point you have to just call, if it walks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, then it's a duck. I think through 3 games you have to just say, like, this is a UJ defense that passes to run. Because our UJ offense, rather, that throws the ball deep because they want to and have to, and that's what they think they're good at. So I don't really think that... I think we'll take the foot off the gas a touch. Oh, man, I got to update my... Oh, no, I got my predicted score. I think we're going to take the foot off the gas, but I think even with that, I kind of think the second team's going to score. I think if you run that horrible inside zone play that we hate so much against this team, you're going to have good yardage most of the time. And I think UGA has enough things to figure out that it's not going to just go into a shell. So I'm going to say over.
Okay. I'll also say over just because I think it's going to happen. It's going to happen. What's Mary Beth's favorite number? If I do get press credentials ever, I will ask.
50.
Yeah. Second question for me, over under UGA punts 2.5. And I came upon this number because we have so far 11 punts on the year for 521 yards. So we're averaging right around that 3-ish mark if we included this game. Mm-hmm. So do you think we're going to punt over or under 2.5 times?
I'm going to say under. I don't really see the stops on this team. I mean, the only I guess the only way you would say over is if you said, like, UJ is literally just going to run it up the middle in the fourth quarter the entire time.
Which they may very well do that. But at the same time, I think that we might get touchdowns that way. You said under. I'm going to say over for the sake of being subversive. What's your last one?
Just subversiveness, because I'm a stinker.
I'm a little rascal.
Nathan's favorite plays himself move is over under 0.5 Daniel snaps in the fourth quarter. I'm going to say under because, damn it, it's going to happen someday.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I think if it's going to happen, it's this team.
Yeah. That's true, though. Yeah, there's got to come a day where he just doesn't play in the fourth quarter. I'll say under as well. I'll go with you. I won't be a stinker. No stinking here.
I mean, the point of these over unders is not for betting. It's to just sort of like get a feel for how we think the game's going to go before we do our predictions. And I think I've been pretty clear about what I think the game's going to be like.
Yeah. So I've been trying to figure out what I wanted this last over under to be, and it's going to be a non-traditional over under. I really want to know if we do have a good day running, if we get some touchdowns, if we have a good rotation of our backs, who is going to come out with the most running touchdowns at the end of the day, you think? You got White, Milton, Cook, McIntosh, most likely.
Um, I think I'm gonna I rushing touchdowns
Mm-hmm.
or just overall touchdowns.
Rushing
Is
touchdowns.
it touchdowns but rushing? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'll say Cook. I think I'll say White rather because I think this is a game where we might try to feed him a little bit in the first half. If it was rushing and receiving, then I would probably say this is
Cook.
more of like a prop bet than an over under. Yeah,
Yeah,
but if it was rushing and receiving, I'd say Cook because I think Cook is he's not a touchdown vulture, but he has just a lot of opportunities.
he does. He's little. He's quick. Our fast little boy. I will say Cook makes the most sense for total touchdowns. You're right. But I do think that White is the one that's going to keep the ball running in the later half of the game. Going to get him some more reps, and he'll probably see maybe 2 touchdowns. That would be pretty neat. I would be into that. Do you want to paint us a beautiful little picture for how this game will go with your overall prediction of this game?
If I'm painting a word picture, this is like brutalism more than it's like impressionism.
Mm-hmm.
I think UJ is going to dominate this from the start to the beginning, and I think this is going to be one of the bigger blowouts in the Kirby Smart era because I think that I think UJ might have the talent where even if they run the same damn play in the third and fourth quarter, that they're still going to score a couple of times. So I'm going to get out there and get real bold and say this is Georgia minus 35 over under 51 points, which is like something like a 41-7 score. I think Georgia's probably not going to give up a touchdown unless they just want to. So I'm saying 51-6.
Oof. Man, that is a wild prediction, honestly. Ugh.
Yeah, I just think I know Georgia doesn't traditionally run up the score under Kirby Smart, but I think that this is a time where it's almost just like you can't help it. Like
Yeah.
you're gonna just run up the score by running out on the field. I mean, this
Just
is not like y'all. I can't even tell you. Like, hold on. Let me just. So I haven't looked at this week, almost intentionally because I've been trying to kind of focus on my own metrics. But I have this metrical sheet that I've been using when I do like sort of pick stuff that has basically an average of what the predicted difference in the game is going to be from a bunch of different advanced stats places.
Mm-hmm.
And so that one has this game as, let's see, the average margin of victory in this game for my sheet is, this is great video.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
The average margin of victory for this game on my sheet is negative 35.
Jeez. Okay.
Like that's
Which is the
insane. That's the
Yeah.
line. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's insane for a couple of reasons. One, because predicted margins of victory don't get that big. Like that's just not how like big advanced metrics are designed to work, right? Like you always have to factor in like Vandy has more talent than a lot of teams that are performing less well than it, right? There's still some like background data from preseason predictions and returning production. And like I think if you're seeing 35 through all 4 of those averages of all of these systems, that means that like there's a possibility that it could go up, which is like for it to even get to 35 is just like I'm like gobsmacked by it. Like the closest one I can see this week, aside from Vandy at 35 and projected margin of victory, is the only one that gets above that is Ohio Northwestern. It's projected as a 45-point team, as a 45-point win, and that's a MAC team versus a Big Ten team.
Yeah.
Or no, sorry,
Yeah.
Ohio State Akron is a 45-point win.
Yeah.
That's the only game I can find that's less competitive is MAC versus Ohio State.
Jeez.
Right, so like that's the kind of thing we're talking about here.
Yeah. It's very similar for those of you that were I was going to say edgelords, which I'm saying that as I was probably before the term was a thing, a bit of an edgelord in high school at times. I feel like the edgelord movie was the Boondock Saints. Like it was the best movie you've ever seen. And there's that scene with Willem Dafoe when he's like describing the firefight at the end of the film, and he's like just describing it was a bloodbath and that kind of thing. Like this is kind of it feels reminiscent of that scene in some ways. Yeah, my prediction is pretty similar to yours. 56-3 Georgia.
Whoa,
yeah.
Lord Jesus.
Lord Jesus.
I think we might hit 50 in this game is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think that we cover the over under ourselves. for this game. We cover the spread ourselves. Wolf. Man, oh man. Georgia Vanderbilt. What a time to be alive, or not. Would you like to get into our favorite segment of the show?
Yeah, let's get through these because I got to get to band practice.
Oh, okay. Yeah. If you want to actually ask any questions for us in the future for Ask CBC, a lot of people have been utilizing our chapelbellcurve@gmail.com, which you can send questions through that. You may also, if you would like, send questions through Twitter or hop onto our Discord for just $1 a month, and you can be a friend of ours and all of these other lovely people that we have become friends with. So,
can you pause and give me a? Can you pause real quick? Mm-hmm. Can we just like do the ones in here that are topical and leave some of these other ones that are a little bit more evergreen for like next week, because I really do need to go before too long.
Yes.
And I don't want to give blind box score bingo short shrift. Like I actually want to do it and do it justice. So I don't want to,
Yeah. Okay. So, yep.
I mean, if there's one that you think is like a quick answer, just hit me.
Yeah.
But anything that's longer or that will wait, let's just add those to the next one.
Mm-hmm. First question comes from Ryan. Do you think the O-line struggles with run blocking are personnel related or coaching related?
I think they're personnel related because I think there's just sort of some bad play, right? Mm-hmm. I think that you've got some guys playing out of position because of injuries. And I mean, that's maybe the only place that UGA hasn't been looking at injuries, and that there's just guys who have not yet gelled into it.
Yeah. Okay. Next question comes from our Gmail. Matt Zilla asks, Florida seems like the most obvious difficult game in the remainder of the season, but what other SEC East teams do you think will be potential trap games that could ruffle our run to the SEC championship game?
I think it's Kentucky. I think Kentucky is like the obvious number 3. I think Kentucky is going to give Florida a hell of a time as well. I know that they almost lost to Chattanooga this weekend, but I would say that all that aside, they are kind of a team that's built to upset people and play like the dirty, gross football or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Christy in London. A quarter of the way through the season, if UGA were to play Bama in Atlanta tomorrow in a vacuum from the rest of the college football season, how do you see it finishing?
I think it might be it. I think if you give me Darnell and Tyke, I would probably predict a UGA win. If we don't have those two, I think it would be a close game, but I haven't seen enough out of UGA's running game to think that, like, I haven't seen enough out of this running game to think that it's just automatically able to do what Florida's did.
Mm-hmm. And second question, to what extent, if any, will Vanderbilt's cancellation of their game against us last year result in the application of abnormal pain and woe and destruction on our part this year?
I don't actually think it will, because I don't think we're going to have to try any extra hard.
It's going to be
any harder. Yeah. Like, we're not going to have to try extra to do that.
Mm-hmm. Next question comes from R123 more. After looking at all of Vanderbilt's individual player stats, the largest number I could find was 943. This is the amount of punting yards by Harrison Smith. For reference, Vanderbilt's offense has only posted 1,058 yards this season. What can Georgia do to contain this absolute weapon?
I mean, play its first team in a base defense.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, you're gonna have to do a little bit more than that, but yeah, I think pretty much like run the first 4 plays out of your defensive playbook, and I think you'll have a chance.
It's kind of like hockey. Like in hockey, one of my favorite things about hockey was that in a tie game, and after several overtimes, if nobody has been declared a winner, you have a shoot-off. I think that we should just kind of have a kickoff. Like we should go out into the parking lot there outside the stadium, and Camarda and this Harrison Smith fella, they just, you kick the ball a few times, see who goes further.
Punt it out and see what happens. Oh, yeah. Well, hold on. Let me ask this next one to you. Okay. Because you have more experience in this city than I do. What's one thing in Nashville that you wish existed in Athens?
So, full disclosure, I have been to Nashville exactly once, and it was when I was traveling for work once and decided to go a long way back home and go through Nashville for one night. And so I was there for probably like 6 hours before I crashed, but I want one thing that I saw there, and please at me with your experiences of the same thing, is the Honky Tonk Central, y'all. Oh man, Honky Tonk Central, like their bar street, I think it's just called Broadway, like everyone's is, it seems, in bigger cities, but Honky Tonk Central was like the mecca of like country bars there, and it was something more than a dive bar in that it was like very flashy and very well kept, and there's a lot of money spent there and spent to maintain it. But it's just 3 floors of country bar madness, and it is an absolute blast, let me tell you. Give me a 3-story bar here in Athens, just one. Let's combine like maybe 6 of the 125 or so we have into one like Megazord bar, and let's make it just an awful and wonderful place to be. And that's what I want.
Make it shaped like a Gundam, and then I'll go.
Just right in the center of town. Forget the trees.
Yeah.
We're
200
gonna use all that
foot tall
space for a bar.
Gundam bar. Let's do it. I'm ready.
Okay. Next question. Rand. I'm gonna say Rand because it's many A's. Over under 3.5 Vandy points.
Jesus. I mean, over. I guess they were a pretty reliable kicker.
It's really tough to not score or to shut out a team, no matter how bad the team is. It's just really tough to shut out a team. Yeah. Second question, something I'd like to start doing. This is not Yes, okay. This is actually a question from Ian. What's your favorite / best tradition that Vanderbilt has? I think that we might come back to this for the. Oh, you got one? Okay.
Yeah,
go for it.
And I'm gonna need an assist from. I thought Sarge was on here, but anyway, Vanderbilt has this foghorn that they play when they score, and I'm pretty sure it's a low D flat on the tuba, like not the pedal, but the one below the staff. And I love it because they would always play it, and then whenever the Derbies were there, the tubas would all just be. It's just like oh. Or whatever, because of the Commodores, and then we would just like try to get in tune with it and then play the same note back to it. Those are the bad old days of RCB.
That would be a lot of fun to see. Captain Falcon, what superhero is each SEC team?
Oh God,
do you have an answer for this?
To do all of these.
Yeah, we'll do it later.
I have some of them. Let's do it. I want to give this one justice because I really like it.
Okay, we'll do that in a review episode. So, final question comes from our friend.
Yara's lack of rage against the machine.
Yeah, Yara lost their rage this past weekend. Question is, no rage today, but how do I recover from pharyngitis? Asking for a friend.
So, do you know what pharyngitis is?
Isn't it just a really sore throat? Like you lose it from it could be any number of things.
Yeah, but it's specifically, I think that what Yara is talking about is that they have a sore throat and they lost their voice from the game because they were yelling.
From just yelling. Yeah.
Yeah. And I would say, stop talking. I know that's hard. It's hard for me. My job is talking. B, I think doing the whole like gargling with hot salt water, warm salt water is really helpful. Have a hot toddy.
This is basically what happened to me before my wedding. Like I had no voice in my wedding, and I was hopped up on all sorts of medications and gargling salt water and tea.
Vicks at night can be good. Sometimes if you are in your room and you might need either a dehumidifier or a humidifier while you sleep, depending on how your room is. Like if you have a very wet room or a very dry room, that can be really bad.
Just the wettest room. Why is my room so wet all the time?
Yeah.
Ugh.
All right, you ready?
That's our show. Hit us with the outro.
Sorry to speed us through here, but
That's okay.
Gotta get on. This has been Chapel Bell Curve. You can find us in iTunes, Google Play, and pretty much anywhere you can subscribe to a podcast, including Spotify. You can get in touch with us on Facebook by searching Chapel Bell Curve, by email at chapelbellcurve@gmail.com, and on Twitter and Instagram at Chapel Bell Curve. If you enjoyed today's episode, please leave us a rating and a review. If you loved today's episode, check us out on Patreon at patreon.com/Chapel Bell Curve. For as little as $1 a month, you can support the podcast and join our growing community on Discord. We will catch you in Nashville, the classic city in parts now known, this weekend. But until then,
go Dogs.
Go Dogs. Burr, 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 burr.